Living in Malaysia versus living in Portugal, which is better? Today I'm going to share my point-based relocation system that I created to help you make better decisions when moving abroad. Let's get started talking about Malaysia, a country I've spent a lot of time in and a country I've really gotten to appreciate. Even though I don't live in Malaysia right now, I still have a lot of positive things to say about the country. But the point of this video is to really share with you how each of the discussed points matters to you, and I think you should know about this. So let's get started. Let's talk about the first point, which is, of course, taxes. Many people move to Malaysia because they want to reduce their tax burden. What's great about Malaysia's tax system is that when you become a resident of Malaysia, you actually do not need to pay taxes on your overseas income. So we're talking about income derived from an overseas company. So if you have a company in England, United States, Canada, Latin America, Africa, Europe, doesn't matter where your company is located, you don't pay taxes on your foreign sourced income, on your overseas income, which is a definite benefit. Now, when it comes to local income, right, especially income, personal income, Malaysia applies a progressive tax rate, and you pay anywhere from 0 to 30% in taxes depending on your volume, depending on your income. So I think from a tax perspective, Malaysia offers great value, so I issued the maximum number of points, which is 3 points. It's great for that. Next, company. I think Malaysia is also great for opening a company for a number of reasons. First of all, you as a foreigner, you can own 100% of a Malaysian company, something that is not possible in Thailand unless you are an American citizen. And of course, some other very difficult contingencies apply. But if you want to open up a company in Malaysia, and it doesn't matter where you are originally from, whether you are North American, whether you are European, whether you are from Latin America, Africa, doesn't matter if you're from any country, right? I mean, I don't think there's any restrictions with the exception of Israel. So that means that you can incorporate a company in Malaysia, own 100%. And that's a great place. You know, I think that is a great offer. So also here, I issue 3 points. Next, labor. Here I'm giving Malaysia 2 points, and let me explain why I'm only giving 2 points. First of all, labor is pretty cheap in Malaysia. You know, you can hire people and pay them the minimum hourly rate, you know, which is significantly less than you would pay any employee in the United States, Canada, Northern Europe. You know, you're just going to pay a lot less. And that is great. What's also great about Malaysia's workforce is that many speak English. On the downside, and that's the only point that is missing in my humble opinion, is that there are few skilled workers in certain categories, right? And not every person speaks perfect English. English is widely spoken throughout Malaysia, but English proficiency remains, I would say, at a medium level. You know, it's not super high, which is fine, but I would say in terms of labor, I give it 2 points. So what could be better is, of course, English proficiency could be better, could be higher. And then, of course, just from an educational, from a skill perspective, it could be better. So 2 points are being issued here. Now, land ownership, another super important point, because a lot of people want to move to a place where they can actually own land, something that is not easily possible in Thailand unless you commit to a pretty complicated company structure. Then it is possible, but who wants to do that? And who wants to put, you know, land and house under the name of their newly married wives? Not many people would want to do that, right? So owning land in Malaysia is actually very different to owning land in Thailand or any other country like Vietnam or the Philippines, right? So in Malaysia, you can own 100% of the land and the property, but let's say you'd get started with a program like the Malaysia My Second Home program. What you need to do is you would need to purchase real estate worth at least 600,000 ringgit. That's the price in Sarawak, Malaysia, which is located in East Malaysia. If you were to purchase real estate in East Malaysia, so that's where we have Kuala Lumpur, Penang, Johor Bahru, then actually there's a 1 million ringgit minimum real estate purchase amount for Kuala Lumpur. You have great options to own land, but on the flip side, you need to purchase a minimum amount, which makes me want to give it only 2 points, but it's still pretty good. Next, citizenship. Very important point as well. You can become a citizen of Malaysia. There is a lengthy path, that leads to citizenship. It's not easy. Not every person can get it. But the most negative thing about becoming a citizen of Malaysia is that you actually have to give up your current citizenship, which is not something that the average person is willing to do. Because of that, I only issue 1 point. Next, networking. Here I issue 3 points. I think places like Penang, Kuala Lumpur are fantastic places to network. There are plenty of meetup groups. There are plenty of entrepreneurs. There are plenty of businessmen, plenty of crypto investors, right? Innovative minds are hanging out in Malaysia these days. I think it's one of the better countries in Southeast Asia. And because of that, because of that high level of networking opportunities that currently exist in this emerging market, I give it 3 points. Next, something that's also very important is, of course, freedom of speech. Unfortunately, freedom of speech does not exist in Malaysia. To a certain degree it does exist, but you have to be really careful. You really have to watch what you say about certain things, about certain laws, about the government. It's best when you don't talk about it at all. And because of that, I issue 1 point. Safety, I think Malaysia is a relatively safe country. There are exceptions, just as there are in any other place I've been to, but generally speaking, I'd say Malaysia is a pretty safe place for a single guy or for a guy traveler. That looks very different for a female traveler because we've heard different stories, and also not so positive stories come out of Malaysia. As a female traveler, you definitely need to be a lot more careful than a male traveler needs to be. The time zone, very important aspect that is not often talked about. And what I mean by time zone is whether it is advantageous living in Malaysia or not. In the event that you are working with an overseas company located in North America, Latin America, Europe, Africa, you name it. I don't think that we're talking about an advantage here. In fact, we're talking about a disadvantage, a significant disadvantage, which I've personally gotten to know during my prosperous time in Southeast Asia. So for time zone benefits, advantages, I give Malaysia 0 points. The food. I think Malaysian food is great, just like Thai food. Many people love Malaysian food. Not all people do, but I think Malaysia has pretty good food. Also, it's pretty diverse. There's a lot of variety. So I think 3 points are adequate here. The internet, a very important point. You want to work online, maybe you are a remote worker, maybe you are a crypto investor, maybe you run a company on the internet. I don't know what you do professionally, you do need the internet to make money, right? And Malaysia has great internet. It has better internet than Vietnam, Cambodia, Philippines, Indonesia, and that by a long shot. So I give it 3 points. Internet has been pretty good in Malaysia, no complaints. Life expectancy is medium, and you can look this up, what factors actually, make up for a high life expectancy. And Malaysia's life expectancy is in the mid-70s, so I give it 2 points. Corruption. There is a lot of corruption in Malaysia, and we have seen this at the highest level. The former prime minister who has been convicted of corruption, and that's just one aspect of it, right? Corruption exists in many different areas in Malaysia, so that's something you need to deal with if you want to live in this specific country on a permanent basis. So I don't really see too many advantages here unless you want to use corruption in your favor, which is not something that I personally recommend. So I give it 1 point. Healthcare, Malaysia got pretty good healthcare. At the negative side is, of course, that good healthcare, meaning good hospitals, good private hospitals, primarily exist in the largest cities. And of course, what does that mean? If you live in like a smaller city or if you live on the countryside, then it might be difficult to access quality health care. You would need to fly in, to one of the largest cities or potentially drive for many hours, and that is not ideal. So I give it 2 points. Cleanliness. Is that important or not? Depends. For some people it's not important, for others it is. I'd say Malaysia is somewhat clean, but it isn't that clean, you know. Environmental awareness is still pretty low. People are burning plastics all over the place, and of course that's just, you know, one of the problems. There are many more problems. There's a lot of vehicle pollution in Malaysia's major cities, plus, you know, there isn't this environmental awareness that I was already talking about. So I think in terms of cleanliness, Malaysia deserves 1 point. English. Do Malaysians speak English or not? I think the average Malaysian, especially the younger generations, they speak English fluently. So I think that's a definite advantage. But again, it's not English-speaking country like Canada, the United States, or Australia. So I give it 2 points. The cost of living, a definite advantage of living in Malaysia. You have a relatively low cost of living, yet you receive a high quality of life. You pay less, you get a lot, right? You pay little, but you get quite a lot of value in Malaysia. So I give it 3 points. The beaches, another important question. You know, so many people dream of living the tropical beach lifestyle. You know, they want to work remotely from their laptops, and Malaysia appeals to them to a certain degree, but they wonder, does Malaysia really have the best beaches in Asia? Generally speaking, the nicest beaches that Malaysia has to offer happen to be very close to the Philippines, namely in Kota Kinabalu, which is located in the state of Sabah. So that's very close to the Philippines. Now, if you were to go to a beach in Santubong, Malaysia, and compare that beach to Kota Kinabalu, there would be quite a big difference in quality. And the same really holds true for East Malaysia as well. Penang's beaches aren't the greatest. They are definitely much better than a lot of the beaches that you see in the US, a lot of the beaches that you see in Europe, even though Greece, Italy, you know, those two countries have pretty nice beaches. So I'd give it 2 points. Could be better. The Philippines would receive 3 points for the beaches. So Malaysia, I give it 2 points. Next, pets. Is Malaysia pet friendly? I think it all depends. It depends on where you live. Do you live in a Chinese community? Because most pets, especially dogs, you know, they happen to be owned by Chinese Malaysians. So you're not going to find a whole lot of pet-friendly parks. Or if you want to walk your dog in KL, you know, in the city center, it's going to be difficult for you to do that. First of all, some of the parks might not be dog-friendly. I don't think it's advisable to have a dog in Kuala Lumpur, even though you could make it happen if you lived, you know, in a different city nearby, for instance, Petaling Jaya. You know, if you want to live there, I think that would be a good alternative. But generally speaking, Malaysia is not very pet friendly. So I give it 1 point. Last but not least, entertainment. Entertainment in Malaysia is medium. You have a lot of nightclubs, you know, you have great outdoor food life, you know, food courts and all that kind of stuff, but you don't really have the best of the best nightclubs. You don't really have a lot of concerts or musical events. You have some of it, but it's not as good as it is in Europe. It's not as good as it is in North America, so I give it 2 points for entertainment. It is time to do the mathematics. So out of 60 available points, Malaysia received 39. I think that's a pretty good score for a Southeast Asian country. So let's jump over to Portugal and see what Portugal has to offer.